Welcome to another edition of our podcast, very human-like podcast. My guest today is Jo Douglas. Now, Jo's a champion of ours, and she's actually a member of our Menopause Pro Roundtable initiative as well. So it's really nice to be in conversation with Jo today. Hi, Jo. How are you doing?
Hi Dee, I'm good, thank you.
Now, we're going to talk all things menopause, but also we know that menopause on its own is one thing, but actually when we're experiencing menopause, we often get rocked by lots of external things that are going on, whether it's financial, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, whatever it is. It's not like there's one size fits all, and it's not as if menopause is our only topic of conversation. It just so happens that we're menopausal women, right?
Right,
So,
absolutely.
so what's going on with you then? And talk to me about when you first realised you were menopausal, what happened, and how you got to where you are now.
Well, I went through an early perimenopause, and at the time I didn't know it because I didn't know then what I know now. Looking back, I'm like, oh, I wish I'd have known. So, hence why I want lots of young ladies to know because, once it hits them, hopefully all the young ladies today will be aware if it hits them early, like we weren't. So I'd given birth to my second child, had my kids late. So I had my second one when I was 40. And when he was about one or two, one and a half, something like that, the hot sweats kicked in, all those anxiety, all those perimenopausal symptoms kicked in. And I knew instinctively that it was hormones. And because I was still breastfeeding, just had a baby, I knew my hormones were all over the place. I didn't even know the word perimenopause at the time. I knew menopause and what it was. And I knew my mum had a rocky one, even though at the time she didn't really realize it. And looking back now, it was the classic symptoms. And then as my second son got older, the anxiety got worse, the irritability got worse. I couldn't stand looking at my husband. I went through a phase of I couldn't stand him being even near me, looking at him. Everything he said irritated me. Bless his heart. We're still together, by the way. We're 20 years, 21 years together. But at that time, it was like I was ready to leave because anything he said just, irritated the hell out of me. Bless his heart. I mean, he was going through his own stuff and he got no sympathy from me because I was going through my own stuff. So we both now, looking back, understand why we were going through a rocky stage. And libido was like zero. So fast forward a little bit of a rough, first few years of my youngest, sorry. That's when we started really arguing. So we kind of just worked through it, because we had to. Kids were young, working, stuff like that. But then when my youngest got to about 5, the argument started just really coming. And we try not to argue in front of the kids. I'm like, look, we're obviously not getting on. I'm going to pack and I'm going to leave. And he's like, well, we're just arguing over ridiculous things. Let's go and have some marriage guidance. And I knew in myself it was ridiculous things that we were arguing over, nothing like solid. And I was just my moods were up and down all the time. And I was studying as well to work in the school where my kids worked as a assistant support teacher and an early years teacher. So I was doing a lot of study at the same time. Anyway, he convinced me, bless him, he convinced me to go to marriage guidance. So off we went. And the guy we spoke to, when I first saw he was a guy, I was like, oh, here we go, he's going to be on his side. But he was really good. And he literally got us to communicate. And he said to us, he said, you have no problems whatsoever compared to all the other people that he sees who have real problems. You two just need to listen to each other and communicate and talk to each other about how you're feeling and what's going on. But at that time, I couldn't even look at my husband. My libido was flat. He was getting hurt thinking I was rejecting him because I didn't want to have sex with him. And I'm like, it's not all about sex. It's not just because I don't want to have sex with you doesn't mean I don't love you anymore. But at the time, I was doubting whether I did. But then this marriage guidance counselor got us to talk to each other and to listen to each other. And things did get better once I heard his side, how he was feeling, how I was making him feel. I explained how I was feeling. It's like, I don't know why, but you just have to look at me and it irritates me. I know it's not your fault. You're not actually doing anything. And we managed to get through it. But still at the time, I didn't realize it was perimenopause. And I started working out and doing Pilates, and I put on a bit of weight. So I started changing my diets a bit and eating healthier. And I noticed that my moods were getting better as I started exercising and as I started eating better and drinking less alcohol and doing all these healthy things. I noticed that my mood was better and that I could deal with things better. So later on, looking back, now I know, that if you do all those things, it helps with symptoms. I realized I was helping myself without knowing I was helping myself. And we got through it. And we were living in the Middle East at this time. And then we moved back to the UK and furlough happened. And we talked about how difficult that time was and how we got through it. And then when I moved back to the UK, I started hearing things about menopause on the news on the TV, and more people were talking about it. And then I heard about perimenopause. I'm like, hold on a minute, perimenopause, all those symptoms, that was exactly what I was going through. And at the time, that was like, so I had my youngest at 40. And if I really think about it, I had some of those symptoms between both kids. So I had my youngest at 36 and my eldest at 40, and I was having some of those symptoms in the middle. So I think it's all a mixture of like hormones, being pregnant and everything. But I think actually, because we wanted to have my second one like 2 years after, and we'd been trying for 2 years, and I didn't fall, which coincides with obviously perimenopause and not being so fertile. And we almost gave up. And then I fell pregnant because we gave up trying. That's when we're a bit more relaxed and it actually happened. So knowing what I know about now, looking back, I think I was actually started being perimenopausal say about 38, 39 before falling for my second one. And it all kind of slotted in. And then when I learnt more, and obviously I studied and qualified and then joined Menopause Expert Group, I decided to change my career and move into helping women because the more women I talk to about what I went through, the more I realize, oh my goodness, this is rife and all these ladies need to know what I now know and it kind of went from there, really. So, yeah, really rocky perimenopause led me to where I am now.
It's a really interesting conversation to talk about when you're in your 30s, actually, because, of course, for those who don't know, or perhaps even think that they know quite a lot about menopause, we know it's such a deep and vast, cavernous conversation. We can't all know it all, and it's moving and changing as research and development goes on. But it's, a lot of women will assume that if you're perimenopausal, you can't get pregnant, for example.
Mm.
They'll assume that if you've got babies or if you are pregnant, then you're not going to get perimenopausal symptoms. And
Mm.
it must be really difficult, actually, when you have a pregnancy, then a gap, then another pregnancy, to decipher between the pregnancy hormones, which incidentally are mostly progesterone, which is our happy hormone. So actually, when we're pregnant, that's why people say that we're blooming. And actually, if you're having a good pregnancy, you usually feel really quite well. But having that gap after your first and in between, that was probably when it was really
Yeah,
starting to kick in for you, it sounds like. And then
yeah,
sort
I
of
think so.
almost by accident, you got pregnant again, you got lucky.
I got lucky. Yeah.
Yes, you got lucky, and then having your second one at 40. Did you say you were 40?
Yeah, 40. But funny you should say that. I did have two amazing pregnancies where I did feel great and I was glowing. But that gap in between, when I think back, those perimenopausal symptoms will happen in between pregnancies and then obviously got worse after my second one came along. And it is hard because you've got those hormones going around with pregnancy and with breastfeeding and everything. And when you think that perimenopause might be happening, it is really confusing. You're not sure whether it is or not. And as well, with pregnancy, I have some friends who are worried about being perimenopausal because they haven't had their children yet. And I did say to them, I said, don't stop trying because it is possible to get pregnant. It's just not as easy. You're not going to fall as easy, but you're still fertile, and like you said, lots of women don't realize that. They panic and worry. And yeah, it is harder, but not impossible. And I have another friend who fell pregnant at 50
Wow.
because she was in the menopause year, counting her months without a period, and she fell pregnant right in the middle of that. And she's got
Wow.
she's got now a 17-year-old and she's 67.
Goodness, yeah, that I mean that's yeah, I mean it's not even one in a million, it's one in much many millions.
But women need to know it happens, so they have
They
to be
need to know it
careful.
happens. Yeah, so contraception is really important. But I was just talking to Lorraine, and she mentioned about because she didn't realise she was menopausal until she was 50, but actually she was on the Mirena coil, which of
Mm.
course this is another thing that happens for women who are using contraception in their 40s. Um, uh, if you've got a coil, because it's releasing a hormone, it may stop your periods, and then you don't necessarily know that
Mm.
you're into perimenopause because it's blocking that. And for women in their 30s who may still be looking to have children, and we know that statistics are telling us that women are choosing to have children much later now, and we're also seeing a lot of conversations in the media and in the press about young women being terrified, absolutely terrified of moving into menopause, which, of course, this is what we want to dispel. Yes, there are some grumpy elements of menopause. There are some elements that are uncomfortable, but they're mostly uncomfortable because you're not prepared for it.
Mm.
They're mostly
Knowledge
uncomfortable
is
because,
key.
yeah, knowledge is everything, but that being able to be prepared, which none of us were able to be because no one was talking about it, no one was educating, and all of the rest of it. That preparation, particularly from I think the age of 30, and not leaving it any later than that. Start preparing in your 30s because we know perimenopause creeps in your late 30s. And if you're over 40, chances are you're perimenopausal, whether you know it or not, chances are you are. But that preparation is key. And I've just been talking about all the external toxins and chemicals and,
Mm.
so many things that can knock our hormones off balance. And if we're not aware of it, it's just going to continue to knock our hormones off balance, and we'll
Yeah.
feel then helpless. We can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and I share a lot about that as well. And that's the reason why I chose the skincare that I use because of that being toxin free. And I share a lot about changing your pans at home and things that you can do to really eliminate toxins from your life. And just talking about anyone who's prepared to listen. Like my sons, I've got a 17-year-old now and a 21-year-old who both have girlfriends, and they know everything there is to know about perimenopause. So they're going to be really supportive husbands, and their daughters know everything there is to know as well. And they've both my son's girlfriends have got mums going through it at the moment, and they're going home and talking to their mums about it. And they've said, oh, you've got to WhatsApp Joe because she'll help you. So it's just, the younger you are, the more you know about it. It's going to be talked about like periods are now, and all naturals.
Yeah.
And again, like you said about the toxins as well, my son's youngest girl, she's like, Joe, have you got that app? What's that app called? Because I've been looking at products on the shelf and making sure the toxins aren't in there. And so the more we talk about it, the more people are going to know about it. And what you don't know, you don't know. Exactly like you said, we didn't know these things, but I'm on a mission, and I know you are too, Dee, that it becomes so natural that we learn about these things. It becomes second knowledge and we're prepared. And if we're prepared, you know, we can not sail through. Some ladies are lucky enough to sail through. There will be ups and downs, but we'll be prepared for it, and we can do as much as we possibly can to have as smooth as possible. And then I'm going on to longevity as well and expanding our health span. Because since moving to Dawlish, my kind of clientele has changed from perimenopause to postmenopause. So now I'm talking to ladies about it's not too late to change the way you eat, to get more active, to build muscle, to eat more protein, because you want to be playing with your grandkids and running. You don't want to be sitting in a chair in your 80s watching everyone have fun. You know, you want to be joining them. And so now my wellness, my women's wellness is moving through to postmenopause. But like you said, with menopause for the rest of our life, whether it's peri-menopause or post, you know, we still need to think about our hormones declining. And there was another lady I was speaking to the other day who's in her 60s and she's having lots of menopausal symptoms. And she's like, well, it's too late for me. I said, it's not too late. You can go on HRT and you can change your diet. You can start moving at any age. It's not too late. You just need to know about these things. So yeah, it's all ages
Oh,
talking
it's such a
about that.
broad topic, and you know, I'm quite concerned about. I mean, we know that Gen Zs now are having less and less babies, but what concerns me over that is not them deciding not to have children, because I think that the world, the way it is at the moment, is, you know, it's frightening enough for us that are older, and so there must be a consideration of whether to bring children into the world, because it's very unsettled at the moment, and I totally get that. But what I'm also listening to and hearing is the fear of having babies. Now I know this is going off piste a little bit, but why I'm bringing this up is that if we make it so frightening for women to experience everything that women can experience, they won't experience any of it, or will attempt not to. Now, you know, having a baby, as we know, it's not the easiest thing in the world. You
No.
know, trying to push a melon through a polo mint. You know, it's not the easy. Well, I didn't. I'm obviously too posh to push. I had 2 emergency C-sections, so I don't know what that sensation
I
is.
had one of each, so I know what both
So you know
they
both,
both have their, you know, the
yeah.
things that aren't so pleasant.
But I think with social media, what it can do is it can increase this sense of fear.
Scaremongering.
Yes, there is so much scaremongering, and this is another reason why I wanted these conversations on our podcast, because we need to have real conversations, as if we're sitting down and talking to young people and saying, do you know what, actually, yeah, it is a bit difficult, but the rewards after. You know, how many women do we know, Joe, that have said after their first child, never again, you know, and they've said to their husbands, don't you ever come anywhere near me again. I'm never having another baby. And then, you know, like you did a couple of years later or a year later, bang, you know, they're into their second one. So we forget the pain because the reward is much greater. And I think with menopause, there is a little bit of that. There can be pain, but once you have the knowledge and you know how to help yourself better, because there's always reason for pain, whether that's inflammation, you know, it could be weight related, diet related, lifestyle related, stress factors. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So you have to sort of, you know, tick off all these things, don't you? Tick off the list. Have we checked that? Right. What is your lifestyle like? Honestly, what's it like right now? Are you in a high stress situation? And of course, we know that a lot of women going through menopause are in those acutely high stress situations. That we often find ourselves in as women anyway, but it can actually rapidly increase, particularly if you're looking after elderly relatives, you're caregiving. You know, you may not be caring for little children running around anymore, but then, hey presto, you're looking after,
You've probably got teenagers with their hormones ranging
yeah,
as well.
teenagers. Yeah, you could be single parenting. You could be, you know, coming out of an unhappy marriage, starting again. So you have financial constraints, and that's a stress and a worry. So it's not just about this physicality, you know, what's happening and the shift in our body. We know that there are all these external factors that contribute
Yeah,
to making it worse or better. Do you
absolutely.
agree?
Absolutely. And it's knowing that I was just talking to a lady the other day, actually. She's taken 2 months off work. And again, she's on the coil. So she says, Joe, I think I'm perimenopausal. She's 53. And I'm like, you're
Yeah,
probably menopausal within that 12 months by now.
yeah,
And talking to her, she's like, well, I don't know because I'm on the coil and I've taken time off work because I'm really stressed and my anxiety is through the roof. And I was talking to her about her job, which is like highly stressful. And she said, yeah, but I've coped, on 4 hours a day and all for all these years. And I said, well, now that you've come menopausal and your estrogen levels are dropping, all that stress that you could hold for all those years has now caught up with you. And it's the best thing you could have done is taken time off. And I've said to her to talk to a doctor about now removing the coil and just letting her body be natural. And then she was scared about taking HRT, so we had to have that conversation as well. She's still one of those ladies who thinks it's causing cancer and, back from the synthetic hormones that everyone was scared about before. And because in my head, I think, well, everyone my age surely must know about it all by now, but they still don't. Because I think menopause is everywhere. Obviously, my algorithm shows me that menopause is everywhere, but someone who doesn't really go on Facebook that much, or, they've never clicked on anything that says menopause, it's not in their life and they're not aware of it. And if no one's talking to it about it in their workplace either, well, that is getting better, but it's still not happening, then she'd have no idea. And she's like, oh, thank you, Joe. Just having a conversation with me for half an hour has made her feel so much better. And now she's going to put things in place and go back to her doctor and have a chat. So, yeah, it's just talk about it all the time to anyone who's willing to listen. And it has a ripple effect, and people hear things that they can do to help themselves.
and
Hmm.
most women are receptive to having a conversation about women's things. Um, but I think if you're having a conversation with someone who's not there yet, in
Hmm.
terms of, it's a bit like talking about pregnancy to somebody who does not want to have children, isn't
Yeah.
interested, and it probably a bit boring. Particularly after you've had a baby as well, when you're boring them even more with more photos. But menopause is something that we know is going to happen to them eventually anyway. And I think that when you start having conversation, if you hit a brick wall, then that can really push you backwards in terms of confidence. So
Hmm.
I suppose the advice really is to find somebody who will listen, who is interested, but not get yourself into a situation where you're taking advice from people who do not know what they're talking about, because there are a huge amount of Facebook groups that are out there that I watch from the perimeter, and they've worry me, because some of the advice and conversations that are happening could be detrimental for women. Spreading misinformation, and really genuinely stuff that they're meaning well, their intentions are well-meaning, but actually the advice and the information is either outdated or one-sided. Okay, because just because you're on HRT, it does not automatically mean that it's going to do the same things for someone that you're talking to.
Yeah.
And equally, in the same way, you can look at complementary therapies, or you can look at anything that's sort of broadly holistic.
Yeah.
Not everything is going to suit you. It's
No.
just a question of understanding what's out there,
What's
and
available.
and then go shopping, and
Yeah.
find what it is that fits with your
Yeah.
chemistry and your biology.
Yeah, because it's not one size fits all, something. I mean, I'm on HRT now and it took me 18 months of tweaking and changing, and I could have quite easily, if I didn't have the knowledge I had, I could have quite easily given up and said, oh, HRT is not for me. But after tweaking and then finding what was right, then it was a game changer. So I do encourage ladies that if they think it's not working, to give it a try. But then there are other ladies that it absolutely doesn't help at all. and for whatever reason they don't want it, which is fine. So let's look at other therapies. Let's look at what your lifestyle's like. Let's look at this and that. And think ladies who are worried about talking about perimenopause in their 30s and think, oh, I might be boring everyone. I think it's nice just to mention one little thing and they'll be surprised that a group of friends, at least a couple of them will go, oh yeah, me too. Like, for example, you say, oh, I couldn't sleep last night. I woke up at 3 in the morning and I don't know why. I'm just overthinking everything. And then just drop it into a conversation. You don't have to go on and on about it. And then you'll be surprised at how many in your friendship group will go, yeah, that happened to me as well. Or I woke up sweating last night. Oh, I hope it's not perimenopause. I'm a bit young for that. And then another friend will go, me too. I thought I was too young. So it's just, when you hear that someone else is or feeling something or going through something, it makes other people go, oh yeah, me too. When you think it's the only one happening to you. And as well, I've met 30-year-olds who don't want to talk about it because it makes them feel old, and I'm not ready for that. And that's not me, and I really just want to close it down.
Yes, addressing that conversation about this old lady business, and I always say, well, do you consider J-Lo as old? Do you consider, Jennifer Aniston as old? Because these are very likely postmenopausal women.
Yeah.
And that's soon, Kylie Minogue. So when you look at the celebrities that are in their 50s, it's quite interesting. Then it sort of shifts something in their minds when they think, well, actually, no, I don't consider them to be old. And that can be a helpful conversation. Something that really dawned on me over the last week was, of course, all these millennials now that are moving into perimenopause, and I have a millennial daughter, so it's gosh, I mean, that does make you feel old when actually your children are moving into perimenopause. That's quite an interesting conversation. It's or the millenopause, as it's being dubbed. But I'm hoping that more and more of them are embracing actually what aging gives you, because regardless of things going south or things starting to sag, or a little bit of a bulge here or a little bit of a wrinkle there, who cares? Honestly, who cares about that stuff? This is just a body that we're inhabiting, that's got to see us through hopefully a long happy life. It's got us this far. But I've been quite alarmed at the ill health that I'm hearing, particularly with millennials, and those that are in their early 30s. We're seeing a huge increase in bowel cancer. We're seeing lots more young people with stomas. We're seeing irritable bowel. We're seeing Crohn's disease, which is on the increase. Now, of course, we can pin that on UPFs, because a lot of them, if you've read Chris Van Tulleken's book, which I talk about quite a lot, Ultra Processed People, and in his stats, he says that 80% of infants are weaned on ultra processed foods. I mean, that statistic still makes me feel very uncomfortable. It's no surprise that we're starting to see lots of other health issues. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that I'm then concerned about that generation who will go through menopause and how that's going to hit them, because they've had exposure to even more toxicity.
Yeah, they haven't had a good start, have they?
Than our generation, and we feel that ours is impacted by the exposure that we've had. So it's got to stop somewhere down the line. We've got to we've got to educate as many people as we possibly can to prevent.
I'm hoping that next generation will have it the best, best of both worlds, better than we had it, better than millennials. Menopausals have it, because the awareness of toxins and ultra processed food is becoming apparent now.
Yes, I
So we
think
can
the Gen
only hope
Zs,
that, yeah, that knock-on effect. And
yeah,
my boys were brought up on everything homemade, and their girlfriends, bless them, not so much. So now their girlfriends are like, "Oh my God, we've tried more food since we've been with your sons, different varieties of food than we've ever had in our lives."
it
So
just
now I'm
makes
hoping
such
that
a
their
difference.
kids will be brought up with homemade food, and that, I like to think so. But yeah, it
Yeah.
does have a knock-on effect.
So what are you up to now then? I mean, I did notice some photographs of one of your events this week. So what are you doing down there on the south coast in lovely Dawlish?
Yeah, I'm in lovely Dawlish. I only moved here in September. So as you know, but the people watching probably don't know, I built from furlough when I started coaching, when I changed my career. I built a menopausal, perimenopausal group on Facebook, and there's like almost 6,400 ladies in there now. So my client base were perimenopause and menopause, my private coaching. But there's obviously a lot of women in there who can't afford private coaching. So I have other ladies in there who are like anxiety coaches or different coaches who use the group for them to advertise their business, but also to give lots of free information as well. And as I was building that and spending a lot of time for free in the group, my husband's like, "You work more for free than you do, with your private clients." But I got more joy out of that. And then I heard about community interest companies that I could start a CIC, get funding where I can pay myself, but it's still free for the ladies. So I got into that. I started a CIC called Inner Wellness Circle, CIC. Applied for funding, got knocked back twice because I mentioned the word perimenopause and menopause in it. The third time I applied, I tweaked it, and instead of using the words perimenopause and menopause, I used isolation, suicide, anxiety, mental health, all the things that come under that perimenopause umbrella, but eliminated the words. And I got the funding, I was happy to get the funding, but slightly annoying just because I changed the wording and eliminated those words. I got it. But anyway, so it took me 2 years to get the funding. By that time, I'd moved because I did lots of practice sessions of I wanted to help people move more, help people eat healthier and stuff within Crediton where I lived, which was still Devon, but mid Devon. I didn't get the funding, so I moved to Dawlish, and it was in Dawlish that I got the funding. And I was like, okay, I don't know anyone here. I've got to start from scratch. I got the funding. I moved to Dawlish in September, got the funding in November. And then I went away to Spain for 6 weeks. So I couldn't do anything. And then finally, when I got home, I was like, okay, I've got to really sort something out. Otherwise, National Lottery and Sports England are going to ask for their money back. So I literally put a post in the local community saying who I was and what I'd like to do, and that I have a Facebook group who's anyone who's interested who feels isolated, who feels anxious, who feels, all the things. And the group just grew. There's like 550 local women in there now from Dawlish and the surrounding areas. So I had a base of people, put in a questionnaire, say what would you like to get out of this? And now on a Monday, I'm doing sea swimming with a local coach who does open water. So I sourced local coaches as well. On a Tuesday, we have cycling and yoga. On a Wednesday, I do body weight exercises on the seawall. And in the morning, drumming. We just did drumming this morning, which is so popular. We have new people join all the time. On the Thursday, we do Tai Chi. On the Friday, we do walk and talk. So a slow walk along the seawall, chatting and being open. Most of the ladies go for coffee afterwards. So some of the ladies have lived here for 5, 6 years, didn't know a soul, and now have got a whole new lots of good friends. I've done 2 workshops. So with the lottery funding, it was to hold workshops throughout Devon, covering my 6 fundamentals, which is nutrition, movement, sleep, connection, mindfulness, and self-care. So I just did my second one last Saturday, and I have a couple of coaches come in. We did some somatic breath work. Had a lady who's a coach in the north of Devon. She came down and talked about putting you first, how putting everyone first before yourself can cause exhaustion and why you're always tired. I did nutrition and showed them how they can make a protein full meal on a budget. And we all ate together. And then I talked about protein and all the things to help themselves. And it was really good. I got lots of really great responses. So I've got 6 more to do, and I'm going to spread them around Devon, further outside of Dawlish. And it's just taken off. And it's made me realize how I love working in person with people. Because before that, everything was done online. And I felt kind of safe online. An imposter syndrome hits you, when you think, well, who am I to let people know what they could be doing to make themselves better? And I felt kind of safe behind a screen. And it was a bit daunting doing this, but obviously, if you know one thing more than someone else, then that's enough, isn't it? And it's
Yeah,
just taken off. And all these ladies are so grateful for it, and I got loads of feedback, and I'm enjoying it as much as they are. And I didn't know anyone in Dawlish 6 months ago, and now I know hundreds of women. And it's just a really, really good. And with my Tropic business as well, I became a Tropic ambassador because of the toxins in skincare. That's naturally organically grown because I talk about toxins and I talk about skincare, and everyone comments about how good my skin looks. So my side business has grown with it. And it's just really good at the moment, and I'm enjoying every single minute of it.
amazing, and a lovely thing to be doing down in Devon. And we're so short of champions in Devon and Cornwall.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yes, we really, really want to expand our champions down into that southwest corner. Absolutely, it gets very forgotten down in the boot.
Yeah.
So no, that's all wonderful, Joe. You're doing some really great things, and I think what I take from this is during menopause, a lot of women start to become reclusive,
Hmm.
and it's very easy to step back.
Yeah.
Everything is starting to irritate you. People are starting to irritate you. You don't want to be with your friends anymore. You don't want to go out. You've gone off alcohol, and that's probably just as well because it's not good for you anyway. And you're becoming much more reclusive, and therefore that sense of isolation starts to kick in. And something that I do know about is that when you start retreating, it's very difficult to come back out.
Yes.
It's one of
Yes.
the hardest things, but it's actually one of the most rewarding things. So, you saying going from online to actually in person, it's not until, that fear of being around all these people is what
Yeah.
keeps you at home and
Yeah.
locked
It was
away.
very scary.
But actually, most of us have experienced it. And those other people, when you're coming together in a group, they all feel nervous and anxious.
Mm.
They have this sort of anxiety, and but it's also mixed with excitement. And so
Yeah.
just get out there, find a group, go and walk with other women, just go and talk. Do the things that we do best as women. And what we do best is we are better when we're with each other. Uh,
Absolutely.
and so that's the message that I know you're getting across in Dawlish, and I congratulate you on that. Well, listen, it's been really lovely talking to you and understanding how menopause, in its own way, has changed your life. And 2 babies, I've no doubt, during perimenopause. I'm sure both of them are during perimenopause, but giving you much joy now. And having sons as I do, my son's 24, as you know, knows so much about menopause too. It's great that the men in our lives start to understand women better,
Yeah.
and then we just don't have quite so much friction and tension. And men may not all be as empathetic as women. They may not all be nurturing like women are, but that doesn't mean that they aren't skills that can be learned. And so, we just need to educate both sexes, educate everybody around us. And
Yeah.
it just makes the world a much nicer place, doesn't it, to be in?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't
Thank
let us be
you.
grumpy old women.
No, no, we've got so much to look forward to. As we get older, life gets better.
Yeah, so much more. Thanks so much, Joe. See you on
Thank
the
you,
round
Dee.
table.
Yes, see you soon. Take care.